You think you're good at multitasking. You think you can check your phone while working, watch TV while studying, listen to a podcast while cooking, and somehow do everything well. But what if I told you that multitasking is a complete myth? What if every time you think you're doing two things at once, you're actually doing both things terribly? In the next 10 minutes, I'll prove that multitasking is destroying your brain, killing your productivity, and turning you into a worse version of yourself. Think about right now. You're watching this video, but I bet your phone is next to you. Maybe you're scrolling through comments. Maybe you have another tab open. Maybe you're half listening while texting someone. And you think you're absorbing everything, but here's the twist. Your brain isn't designed to process multiple streams of information simultaneously. What you call multitasking is actually rapid task switching. And every time you switch, you're losing time, energy, and intelligence. Stanford University studied people who multitask regularly and found something shocking. Heavy multitaskers are worse at multitasking than people who rarely do it. They're worse at filtering irrelevant information, worse at managing memory, worse at switching between tasks. The thing you practice constantly is making you worse at it. Let me show you what's really happening inside your skull. In 2009, neuroscientists at MIT used brain imaging to track what happens when people try to do two things at once. They found that your brain doesn't actually multitask. It rapidly toggles between tasks, and every single toggle costs you. They call it switching cost, and it's not small. Research from the University of California found that it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to fully refocus after an interruption. 23 minutes. So when you check your phone for just a second while working, you're not losing 1 second. You're losing half an hour of deep focus. But here's where it gets darker. A study from the University of London found that multitasking lowers your IQ temporarily by an average of 15 points. That's the same cognitive decline you'd experience from smoking marijuana or staying awake for an entire night. Every time you split your attention, you're making yourself functionally dumber. You're reading an email while on a phone call. Your comprehension drops by 40% on both tasks. You're driving while texting. Your reaction time becomes slower than someone legally drunk. This isn't about being busy. This is about brain damage. And here's the most disturbing part. Dr. Cover, Gloria Mark from UC Irvine tracked knowledge workers and found they're interrupted or switch tasks every 3 minutes on average. 3 minutes. That means you never reach deep focus, ever. You spend your entire day in a shallow, distracted state, accomplishing nothing meaningful while feeling exhausted. And you think you're being productive because you're busy, but busy isn't productive. Busy is just noise, and that's just the surface. Now let me tell you about the real cost of this habit. Your brain has something called working memory, basically your mental RAM. It can hold about 4 chunks of information at once. When you try to multitask, you're overloading this system. Imagine a computer trying to run 50 programs simultaneously. It slows down, freezes, crashes. Your brain does the same thing, except you don't realize it's crashing because the decline is gradual. Dr. Earl Miller, a neuroscientist at MIT, explains it like this. When you multitask, your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for focus and decision-making, has to constantly reorient itself. This creates a stress response. Your body releases cortisol and adrenaline. You feel frazzled, anxious, overwhelmed, not because you have too much to do, but because you're doing it in the worst possible way. But here's what the productivity industry doesn't tell you. Every app, every notification, every platform is designed to fragment your attention on purpose. They call it growth hacking, but it's actually attention hacking. Nir Eyal, who wrote the book Hooked about designing habit-forming products, later wrote another book called Indistractable because he realized the monster he helped create. Tech companies employ teams of psychologists whose entire job is to interrupt you as often as possible. Push notifications, red badges, endless feeds, they're not bugs, they're features. Every interruption is a chance to show you an ad, collect data, keep you engaged. And the system goes even deeper. Open-plan offices were sold as collaborative environments. But research from Harvard found they actually reduce face-to-face interaction by 70%. What they really do is create constant visual and auditory distractions, forcing you into permanent multitasking mode. Meetings scheduled back-to-back with no transition time. That's not efficiency, that's designed chaos. Email culture where you're expected to respond instantly. That's not communication, that's systematic interruption. The modern workplace isn't optimized for deep work. It's optimized to keep you busy, distracted, and just productive enough to not get fired, but never productive enough to finish early and leave. Here's where it gets truly sinister. A study published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology found that the mere presence of your smartphone, even if it's off and face down, reduces cognitive capacity. Just knowing it's there, just the possibility of a notification, creates a brain drain effect. Your brain is constantly monitoring for that potential interruption, which means you're never fully present. Researchers tested people doing complex tasks with their phones in another room versus on the desk. Same people, same tasks. The ones with phones nearby scored significantly lower. Your phone may not be with you, but your mind is still with it. And here's the most uncomfortable truth. This isn't accidental. This is a trillion-dollar economy built on destroying your attention span. The average person checks their phone 96 times per day. That's once every 10 minutes. App developers compete not for your conscious choice, but for your compulsive reflex. They A/B test notification sounds to find which frequency makes you check fastest. They optimize colors to trigger urgency. They use infinite scroll so there's no natural stopping point. And they've won. The average adult attention span has dropped from 12 seconds in 2000 to 8 seconds now. You've been cognitively downgraded, and you paid for the device that did it. So why does this matter to you right this second? Because you're losing the best years of your life to fake productivity. You spend 8 hours working, but only accomplish 2 hours of actual work because the other 6 hours are shredded by interruptions, distractions, and task switching. Then you feel guilty for being unproductive, so you work longer hours, which means more fragmented attention, which means even less real work gets done. It's a death spiral. Meanwhile, your creativity is dying. Deep work, the kind that produces breakthroughs, requires at least 90 minutes of uninterrupted focus. When was the last time you had 90 uninterrupted minutes? Last week, last month, ever. Your relationships are collapsing because you're physically present but mentally absent. Phubbing, phone snubbing, is now recognized by psychologists as a legitimate relationship threat. You're at dinner with someone you love, but you're checking email. You're playing with your kid, but you're scrolling Instagram. You think you're there, but you're not there. And the people around you feel it. A University of Essex study found that just having a phone visible during a conversation reduces the quality of that conversation and decreases feelings of closeness and trust. You're sacrificing real connection for the illusion of connectivity. On a neurological level, you're literally rewiring your brain for distraction. Neuroplasticity means your brain adapts to how you use it. Every time you interrupt deep work to check something, you're strengthening the distraction pathway and weakening the focus pathway. It's like going to the gym and only training your left arm. After years of multitasking, your brain becomes structurally incapable of sustained attention. Dr. Nicholas Carr, who wrote The Shallows, documents how heavy internet users develop patterns of skimming and scanning instead of deep reading. You can't read a book anymore. You can't watch a movie without your phone. You can't sit with your own thoughts for 5 minutes. That's not a personality trait. That's brain damage. Here's how you take back control starting today. First, implement the one thing rule. For any task that matters, close everything else. Not minimize. Close. One browser tab, one document, one task, no music, no notifications, no background, anything. Research from Stanford shows that people who work on one task at a time complete it 40% faster and with significantly higher quality than multitaskers. Set a timer for 25 minutes, the Pomodoro technique, and commit to absolute single tasking. Your brain will resist. It'll scream for stimulation. That's withdrawal. Push through it. After 2 weeks, you'll notice something incredible. Tasks that used to take hours now take minutes because you're finally using your full cognitive capacity. Second, create a distraction-free environment like your career depends on it, because it does. Turn off every notification on every device, not on silent, off. Uninstall social media from your phone entirely. Put your phone in another room when working. Use website blockers like Freedom or Cold Turkey to make distracting sites physically inaccessible during work hours. This sounds extreme, but extreme is checking your phone 96 times a day. Extreme is never having a deep thought. MIT researchers found that knowledge workers who created distraction-free blocks of time were 3 times more productive than colleagues who stayed available. The people who protect their attention become irreplaceable. The people who don't become replaceable. Third, schedule transition time between activities. Your brain needs at least 5 minutes to fully switch contexts. Back-to-back meetings, that's cognitive malpractice. Schedule 15-minute buffers. Use them to decompress, take notes, prepare for the next thing. Same with your personal life. Coming home from work. Sit in your car for 5 minutes doing nothing before going inside. Finishing a workout. Don't immediately check email. Let your brain settle. Dr. Quote. Sophie Leroy's research on attention residue shows that when you switch tasks without closure, part of your attention stays stuck on the previous task. That's why you finish a meeting and can't remember what was said. Your brain was still processing the previous thing. Transition time clears the residue and lets you actually be present. I tested this myself. Last year, I went 1 month with 0 multitasking, 1 task at a time, every time. Phone in a drawer during work, no music, no background TV, nothing. First week was torture. I felt understimulated, anxious, bored. My hands reached for my phone out of pure reflex 50 times a day. But by week 2, something shifted. I finished a project that had been sitting incomplete for 3 months. I read 2 books cover to cover, something I hadn't done in years. I had a conversation with my partner where I actually remembered everything she said because I was actually listening. By week 4, I realized I had accomplished more in that month than the previous 3 months combined. And I worked fewer hours, not more. Fewer. But here's the final twist you need to understand. Even this video is designed to hold your fragmented attention. Fast pacing, bold claims, constant stimulation. I'm competing with every other distraction in your environment right now, and I'm using the same techniques they use. Does that make the information wrong? No. But it should make you realize something. You can't fix a distraction problem with distracted consumption. Watching videos about focus while multitasking doesn't work. Reading articles about productivity while checking email doesn't work. You already know what you need to do. You've known for years. The information isn't the problem. Your fragmented attention is the problem. Multitasking isn't a skill. It's a malfunction. It's your brain trying to cope with a hostile environment designed to fragment your attention for profit. Every notification, every interruption, every quick check is a transaction where you trade your cognitive capacity for someone else's agenda, and you're making that trade 100 times a day without realizing it. The companies win. The algorithms win. You lose. So here's your choice. You can keep pretending you're good at multitasking. Keep juggling 17 things poorly. Keep feeling busy but never accomplished. Or you can admit that you've been doing it wrong, that the system has been lying to you, and that single tasking is the only way your brain actually works. It'll feel slow at first. It'll feel inefficient. That's because you've forgotten what real efficiency looks like. Real efficiency is doing one thing completely and never having to do it again. Fake efficiency is doing 10 things partially and having to redo all of them. Right now, close every other tab. Turn off your phone. Don't just finish this video. Finish one thing today with your full attention and notice how different it feels. Share this with someone who's drowning in their to-do list, not because I asked, but because they need to hear it. And if you want to actually rewire your brain for deep work, subscribe, but only if you're ready to do one thing at a time, including watching these videos. 10 minutes ago, you believed in multitasking. Now you know it's been destroying you all along. The choice is yours, but you can't unhear this.